Or a very good morning to you all. As the ambassador said, resilience is the key in this world, isn't it? After the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been a lot of talk about de-globalization, the end of a 70-year experiment in free trade, perhaps. However, trade and world trade as a percentage of global GDP actually remains quite resilient, about 48%. So the talk is now about realigning trading blocks. We hear a lot about onshoring, nearshoring, friendshoring, none of it boring. We also hear a lot about China plus one. And we talk to investors about China plus one, but is it true? Can Vietnam be the world's friendliest shore? Does it need to take market share from China in order to do so? The Vietnamese government has an objective for Vietnam to be a modern, industrialized economy, to see the wealth and livelihoods of its 100 million people rise up, and to have made in Vietnam appear on more of the world's goods that we all take for granted. In that context, how vital, if at all, then is ESG for Vietnam in maintaining its position and growing and strengthening its position as a factory for the world? And what are the opportunities? Well, we have a very great panel for you this morning. But before we talk about opportunities and success, we're going to humble ourselves in front of you a little bit. And we're going to talk about challenges. We're going to talk about failures and resilience. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists, just in 20 seconds each, to reflect on one of their biggest mistakes or regrets in Vietnam, either personally or professionally. So just for 20 seconds each. An Hai, can I start with you?
Thank you. I think it's quite very difficult question to talk about the mistake, but I think it's just I will share about my challenge. I think it's nowadays the world change a lot, and even I have almost 30 years working experience, professional working experience, but the changing is too fast, and I think it's my big challenge how to keep up with the change.
How to keep up? Okay, thank you, Bruno. Belgians don't have any mistakes, do they?
Only one, right? I can do it in less than 20 seconds and in less than 10 words. Tôi xin lỗi, tôi chưa biết tiếng Việt.
Yeah, hello everyone. So it takes me a little bit time to reflect and confess what my biggest mistake. So I think that so I myself work abroad for nearly 10 years, and when I live and work abroad in Europe, at that time I really think that Vietnam has not a lot of opportunities. So that's why I live a little bit long in Europe, and that is one of the things that I regret, because when I came back to Vietnam, I find that there are so much opportunities that we have in Vietnam, and that is my personal mistake, I can say.
Tao?
Yes, this is very interesting and let's say quite weird question. But for me, it helped me to reflect a lot about many failures and lessons. And one of the biggest life lessons that I learned is how to manage my expectation on myself, on others, to balance it and use the expectation as motivation to move forward, but not putting pressures. Yeah.
Guillaume?
Thanks. For me, it's professional, but it's quite a personal mistake. When I arrived in Vietnam, I just brought some durian to the office in hoping of being, generous, and that didn't work quite well.
Guillaume got me a durian. I love durian, or sarian, I think, in Vietnamese. My biggest mistake is underestimating Vietnamese people, underestimating the tenacity of entrepreneurs to always find a way around a problem, sometimes doing things in unexpected and creative ways. So underestimation is my personal mistake. Well, thank you for that panel. So the panel are human and make mistakes, but have a lot of experiences to share. I do encourage you all to connect with the panel during the breaks, during the coffee, during the lunch. Track them down on LinkedIn as well to hear more about their individual journeys and what their organizations are doing. So let's start. What are we all going to do collectively and individually to make Vietnam the friendliest shore, to increase the value add in the supply chain in Vietnam? And how does ESG fit into that? And hi.
I by myself come from this very special organization. We are a business-led organization established by the government, but it's under the VCCI, Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Young Industry. We are a business-led organization, and we are the hub between to connect the government and also is a business. And we collect is our member recommendation on the policy shaping and make the recommendation for the government. And also it is the try to have our business member and also its supply chain to understand what exactly requirement from the regulation of the government. That is our role to support the Vietnam and also support business community in Vietnam in order to move up to the value chains. Yeah.
Tao, you're also involved in policy and regulations. Do you agree with An Hai? Anything to add around that?
Yes, I think regulations, policies, standards are very important to move forward economically, but also in other aspects like environment and social. And as United Nations Specialized Agency, UNIDO, we promote inclusive and sustainable industrial development through economic competitiveness enhancement for poverty reduction, globalization of trade, as well as safeguarding the environment. So we have been in Vietnam since 1978, supporting the development of industries in Vietnam depending on its demands. So we support the government in policy, of course, but we also work very closely with the businesses, with the private sector, for example, in supporting the private sector development, SME development, and most recently, helping the industries to greening its activities. And one of the very flagship projects is the Eco-Industrial Park project that we have been promoting in Vietnam to support the transition of the existing industrial parks into eco-industrial parks. And I'm very pleased to have Bruno, the CEO of Deep Sea, as one of our very pioneering pilot that they self-start and now they are part of our program. So Bruno will talk more about the industrial park.
So eco-industrial park. Guillaume, you interact with investors and people. Do they understand all the regulations? The ambassador mentioned, the EU and other people have a long list of regulations. Are they clear, easy to follow, no problem implementing them?
So we are on the operator side, right? We operate and maintain technical assets, be it in park or industrial plants. And I jump a lot on what Tao just said, and also from the regulation to the operation, we need frameworks. We need to clarify what it means for the day-to-day operation. And what we did, actually, when we started to say, okay, how do we align our operation, our job on what is ESG? Well, the obvious choice was to start from the standard, ISO 55000, ISO 46000, and so on. There are a broad set of standards that is covering our activity, water management, asset management, energy management. And the job, and this is helped by practical example and by the work of UNIDO, for example, and work of Chamber of Commerce, to translate this into action, and to translate this also into a reporting framework that enables the stakeholder to check on us, to make the operator accountable. Because you don't just have to build a nice factory or a nice energy system. You need to show how it is sustainable, right? And this is through reporting.
So a lot of reporting and analysis. Dr. Kung, you're a computer scientist. Is there a role for technology in making all this easier for players in the supply chain?
Yeah, of course. So as part of FPT, so we provide IT solution and software, and we are keep moving up in the value chain. So previously we provide people to do development, and then time by time we move up the value chain, expand the value chain. We provide people with the capabilities to provide the solutions to manage all kind of industrial park and so on. And not only provide solution, we made our own solutions and move up the value chain. And right now, recently, we do also the consulting services. So really all kind of the value chain, not only in normally we talk about manufacturing of real things, but FPT, we manufacture the software. So that is also the things that we do in order to move up the value chain in manufacturing and in order to provide for ESG as well.
Well, it all sounds very easy. Bruno, must be very easy your job up in Haiphong.
Life is great in Haiphong, city of my dreams, no worries. What can I say about moving Vietnamese manufacturing up the value chain in Haiphong? We're very close to China. We're active in Quảng and Haiphong. So many people ask me what I think about China Plus One, and I keep giving the same answer. I believe Vietnam cannot be the answer to it. It's too small, you don't have enough people, you don't have enough energy, and more importantly, you don't have enough land. The figures are very clear. If we take Guangdong province, Shenzhen, which is the highest industrial density that you can find in the world, if 2% of all those companies would move to Vietnam, all the land in Vietnam is gone. There is no industrial land that even covers that. So we should stop aiming for the stars, and perhaps we can shoot for something else. And I'm very happy that my European ambassador, being European myself, of course, highlighted the importance of ESG. And in my view, ESG is one of the tools that Vietnam can start to use to make a difference, to actually move up the value chain. Unfortunately, I do not believe that message is yet clear. So that's why I'm here, to tell you this. Because I think that if Vietnam plays its cards right and pushes its own industry towards different and higher standards, it will be very unique. And it doesn't need to aim to become China Plus One. It can cherry pick those investors that it wants.
And Hai, what do you think about that? Do you think regulation can support Bruno's ambition there?
I think this is nowadays too many people talk about the ESG. And all the investors talk about the ESG. That's why, this is the business community in Vietnam is 96% is small and medium enterprises. They are afraid of ESG because it's unclear for them. Besides that, I think we have quite very modern and I think advanced regulation system like labor law, environment protection law, and all ESG is already mentioned on that. And also, we have it's a national strategy for the decarbonization. We have the national action plan for the circular economy transition. We have everything. And it is our organization to play the role that we try to simplify the ESG concept and also try to harmonize what the requirement, new requirement of the EU like the CSRD and CSTD, or everything combined with this regulation. And to putting in this corporate sustainable index is called the CSI, one of our initiative since 2014. And we allowed by the government for the benchmarking and rating the corporate sustainability in Vietnam since 2016. That is try to capacity building for the small SME, applying the ESG from the simple, from the basic, and to meet and to make up the report in order to meet up the requirement.
Brilliant.
it's a bit impolite, but I am going to be opposing what is being said. I agree there is a lot of laws in Vietnam. Very good. I can tell you even there are too many laws in Vietnam, and I can add to that, they are not consistent. I am called a pioneer of an eco-industrial park. I can tell you it's a headache from early in the morning till late in the evening. There is no consistency in any of the laws. There is a lot of talk these days about the new law on renewable energy. Okay, try. If that law gets voted and approved, an industrial zone can no longer generate its own energy and sell it to its own investors. That's one example. If you want, I can go on for 15 minutes till we're finished. I believe the problem is not that there are no laws, there are too many, and they're not comprehensive, and they're not easy to understand or to apply.
We'll take the one answer for now. Thank you very much. So ESG, we heard yesterday there's a lot of green hushing, greenwashing, but we've also heard that ESG will fail if it doesn't move from just tick the box, and it's got to move to actual action, but that action presumably comes at a cost. Someone's got to pay. Tao, what are the costs of having an eco park? Are there any returns that investors have for implementing all this extra headache?
Yes, before answering your question, I just want to say that I totally agree with Bruno that there are too many laws and regulations and standards. And in fact, one of the efforts that UNIDO together with World Bank GIZ, the World Resources Forum and SNV is to develop an ISO standards on eco-industrial parks to standardize globally on eco-industrial park. So that will build upon the international framework on eco-industrial park, jointly developed by UNIDO, GIZ, and the World Bank. And we tested in Vietnam. It helps the government to generate eco-industrial park articles in the Decree 35. And then we help really, the important is to make the regulation, the standards happen on the ground. So we have tools, very practical tools and guidelines to help industrial parks like Deep Sea and the tenants within industrial parks to really take actions to do more resource and energy efficiency, to save chemicals, to save water, to reduce emissions, waste, etc., etc. And it brings economic values. For example,
can you measure that return?
Yes,
I mean,
yes. And then, of course, environmental and social impact as well.
Don't forget to answer the question. Does it cost money?
It costs, but the returns in investment is there. So I come up to the last sentence. Is like we just finished the first phase, and we help the companies within the parks identify about more than 600 resource efficiency and cleaner production solutions, and more than 200 solutions are implemented, and it helps the businesses to save $3.9 million annually, and it will increase. So
Guillaume,
that's
thank
just
you,
one
Tao.
example.
Guillaume, are you seeing those kind of trade-offs between cost and return?
Yeah. For us, sustainability is very much about actually generating savings with different kind of ROI. Specifically, it broadened the lens, let's say. Instead, for example, typically for maintenance, people think about direct labor cost and spare parts. It's not about this, actually. It's about the life of the equipment, and replacing electrical transformer after 5 years instead of 15 years. This is a huge loss, and this is a loss in terms of capex. So the point of view from ESG is that it brings together different costs, different allocation, and then we have the full view. We have the life cycle management. So typically, also when we talk about, for example, a better maintained HVAC system is 15% more efficient in terms of energy, just because you clean the filter and you check your motors. Of course, you need to do a little bit more inspections. You have to be better trained technician. That costs a little bit more. But if you have, I would say, a right assessment of all the costs, you will see it. So this, typically we look at ROI is 8, 15, 16 months. Is not something that is inexisting. It's something we see every day.
If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Dr. Kung, it sounds like a data solution is needed there. Is that right?
Yeah, of course, I totally agree with Guillaume about how we can improve the efficiency and ROI on the industrial zone when we apply technologies. Because by using technologies, we can have data, we can predict about the maintenance, so reduce a lot in terms of the spare part, not only on money, but also on the effort of the maintenance team. So with all the technology, we can help to technologies, and with IoT, with AI, we can help a lot on deciding what kind of the moment that we need to replace the spare part and so on. So that is one of the effect that we can we pay a lot, a little bit for the cost of implementing, but having a lot of effect in impact. But I want to mention another kind of cost that we need to pay also for ESG. Is kind of the standard and the certificate that we need to have. Like for us in FPT, we do the service in worldwide, and even we do only using human, where we use electricity, building, and so on. We don't produce, we don't use material, but we use only the human brain in order to provide the services. But we still need to comply with a lot of standard, and that's why recently we must acquire for the EcoVadis level, because in the worldwide biggest client in the world, they require us to have this kind of certificate, and this will give us a lot of pressure in order to comply with this standard, and this is kind of the cost that we need to pay. But also this will bring us a lot of benefit by applying all the regulations of the standard and target inside FPT in order to cover and satisfy all the standard.
You raise a good point there. It might be that you don't just need more and more domestic regulation, but you need to listen to what the customers want, right? And they will demand, because they're regulated in their countries as well. So there's a cost to ESG. I think we've lived a life where we like cheap goods, but maybe cheapness is something that we can't afford in the longer term, right? We need to be proactive about that. So in a world of significant geopolitical change, 60% of the world goes to the polls or is currently going to the polls. Demographic change, aging population, people aren't having kids enough, and technological change around that. Does this change frighten you and frighten what you think are the opportunities in the supply chain? With this change, are there areas for growth, blue ocean perhaps, for the Vietnamese manufacturers and their investors? Hi, can the regulation keep up with the change?
Yes, it's on the progress, and I think this is our government quite very dynamic, and it's for all the commitment between bilateral commitment and also it is the new FTAs. We localize it. This is to the regulation. I think this is the regulation. I have a part agree with Bruno that this is a bit inconsistent, but it has to be based on the situation of socio-economic development. It's normal. It is normal story and normal like every country. And I think we are on the progress, and opportunity for Vietnam is a lot. We have this. As you might know, you have the 42% coverage by the forest. We have quite. It is the we have the goal weight for the human resource. That's why it is a lot of opportunity for the Vietnam, especially for the geographic position of the Vietnam. That is the opportunity.
Bruno, do you agree? No pressure.
Yes, I agree that there is progress. Okay, so I agree on that one. I also think that the times have never been as volatile as they are today. We all know that. I also believe there's never been so many people talking about sustainability or ESG as today. I think the art is turning that into an opportunity, allowing sustainability not to become, like you say, a tick-the-box exercise, but making it something that makes you different. If I look at Deep Sea, as a company, we quintupled in 5 years. The land is still the same. We're still based in Haiphong and Quang Ninh. So what changed? Only one thing changed. That we rewrote our business model and said the core pillar is sustainability. And the good thing is we started doing that before it was the most fancy word in the world, right? But we should be very clear. It costs money and energy. And you need people to do it. People that think outside the box. So that partially you can use it, like Guillaume says, to save money. But in reality, we are not only saving money. I need to admit, I have to do that every month to my shareholders. We actually spend a lot of money to do it. But in return, we can also say that we are the most expensive industrial zone of the north of Vietnam. And nobody comes to complain. Because the ones that complain do not value what we offer. So if you talk about value in your supply chain, that is what it's about. If you do things differently, you can carve out a different future for your company. And I fully agree with Mr. Hai, what he said before. It is true, many Vietnamese companies are very afraid from the new regulations that the ambassador was talking about. Because it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But it's like in the past, ISO standards. If you could comply with an ISO standard, you could automatically approved for certain vendor positions. It's exactly the same. So if you, as a company, start working on it today, you will reap the future, in the near future, the fruits of it. So I think the moment is now, but we should stop talking or greenwashing and start doing. That's it.
Thanks, Ron. Tao, are you frightened by the change, or are you comfortable that eco parks will be the only way to go?
As a Vietnamese, I'm frightened because I see that FDI are moving away. Yeah, we are no longer count on the low labor cost economic growth model, but we have to move up the global supply chain to be more technology and knowledge based. But as a UNIDO employee, I'm proud to be part of the team to drive the economic and industrial development towards more sustainability pathway. So that's why I'm so excited and honored to be here today. I hope that I can have more partners that are very visionary, very bold in actions to join force in this very, very ambitious, but I think very long-term goals that Vietnam should pursue.
Guillaume, plus ça change?
So yes, for us this change is very exciting. You were mentioning, for example, cheap goods. Actually, if we want to produce cheap goods, we need to take away a strong viability. So a direction also of the cost of the investment is to ensure stability, at least at some local level. So we don't have to deal with non-compliance. We don't have to deal with surprise that I have a leakage and I need to deal with environmental damage and so on. So that's also something to have in mind, and I think this is also what Bruno wants to highlight. You need to pay a cost to be cheaper, and that's one point. But here, and this is the good news, being in Vietnam right now, we can factor in these costs at the design stage. At the very beginning. And I've been working for 15 years in China before. At that time, there are a lot of companies that took the shortcut. They didn't take this into the technological transformation into account. I believe we learn from all of this here in Vietnam, and we can directly anticipate on what to measure, where, preparing strategic asset management plan from the beginning, so that when we arrive into operation, we are more efficient. And this is what change creates. Try to do this in Europe is difficult. You are not opening a new plant every day.
Thankfully, we're not in Europe. No offense to our EU ambassador. Dr. Kung, can AI help in all of this?
Yeah, so I think that for your question, I'm really exciting about this change in technologies and everything. And one of the blue ocean that we have from our perspective is AI and chips, because these are all the kind of things that just start at the beginning. AI, we have seen, even it was born like 60, 70 years ago, but then just recently there are a lot of change. So that is also a chance for Vietnamese company and especially for FPT as one of the leading technology in Vietnam. We can take the lead and then have a chance to increase the value chain and provide the services and product and solution for all the business in order to bring more efficiency for the companies. Yeah.
So I mentioned at the beginning that world trade as a percentage of GDP is about 48%. In Vietnam, it's somewhere between 150 and 200%. It's a very open economy. Over the last 30 years, foreign direct investment has helped drive the annual GDP growth that's the envy of many. Can it continue? Perhaps in kind of closing thoughts and remarks from each of you, do you see that FDI trend and the manufacturing made in Vietnam for export is at risk at all? Or do you think for the next 3 to 5 years, it's an upwards trend?
I think it's just Vietnam, and Vietnam is not alone. Vietnam is just also we have the one of this is the Asian community, and I think it is challenge and also but the opportunity for the Vietnam in the future, and I think it is a cost. Maybe we pay more, but it is the cost pay for more is to pay to build the market, and also it is the according to our research that it is we base on the sustainability the pillar is a really resilient. It is more than it is we if you do not do it.
Bruno?
Can it continue? The answer is yes. But there's always a but, right? And it's a big but, unfortunately. It will depend on how Vietnam plays its cards. Geopolitically speaking, the world has never seen what's happening lately. And that's a threat, but also an opportunity for Vietnam. So if they play their cards right, I believe they can be, hopefully, a safe haven of political stability. And I hope that in that case, in combination with what actually Guillaume said, Vietnam is still building so many new things, so they can actually be faster. I don't know, it was last week, I think, I spoke to somebody. Vietnam now has the highest degree of app payments of the whole of Southeast Asia. I mean, and that is in less than 10 years. So I think that change can, in my view, show that Vietnam, anything can happen. For me, there are no limits. It's like my colleague here said. He came back from Europe and realized there's so many opportunities. I believe it's full. Our zones are filling up faster than we can imagine with people that are convinced of the same thing. So I do not place bets, but if you want to place a bet, I would give it at least 5 to 7 years of ongoing upwards trend. Yes.
And Bruno, do you think we had the EU ambassador, and Mimi reminded us that perhaps people look at the EU as the gold standard and you should adopt and comply with its standards. Do you think businesses are doing enough? And what can they do to make sure they comply?
I'm a European, right? So what can I say? And I believe you're no longer a European.
I'm
right?
a Singaporean, yeah, thank you. Yeah. When Brexit happened, I threw my British passport at the embassy and became a Singaporean. Yeah.
Are we the gold standard? In all honesty, I would think no. Because also in Europe, I need to break you the news, many things go wrong. And we are slow. We don't build any things, any infrastructure takes ages. But in terms of what is coming out of the EU regarding sustainability, I believe we are really leading probably even the world. And I believe it's the only direction. And I do not say that because I'm European. I truly believe it, because we only have one planet. So what are you going to do if you only have one? Better take care of it. So, and I believe the trickling down effect will lead to better ways of doing business. Are we ready? I'm not so sure.
Guillaume, I think you're also originally from the EU. Are we
Yeah.
doing enough? What can we do to comply with where the EU's suggesting we go?
Doing enough? No, I think we never do enough in that direction in sustainability. One positive factor that I see here in Vietnam, especially in contrast with China, is China is looking a lot inwards, right? They want to build their own standard and so on. And what I see in Vietnam is much more openness and listening to the customers. And especially in a pursuit of finding niche markets in premium markets. And this is very interesting because it enables a dialogue between international players and Vietnam. So it gives the right pool and I believe the right incentive to do more. One of the challenges, of course, to build capability, to deploy capability at scale. But in the process is also ticking boxes into social development because we want more high-skill workforce. So that's the right stuff. So do we do enough? No, we need to do much more. But I think we have the right framework and structure to go fast. So that's interesting.
And Dr. Kung, digital transformation, is that going to help companies comply?
Yeah, I think so. Digital transformation, of course, we do not lead the business, but we will give all kind of solutions and tool in order to help the business to comply it in an automatically way and in efficient way. Yeah.
I want to give the last word to a lady. Tao, what closing remarks do you think around either the EU challenge meeting its requirements or in general whether the FDI trend can continue to support the manufacturing for export?
Yeah, if I was in the last 2-3 years, maybe I'm quite pessimistic, but recently I gained my optimism. So I strongly believe on the resilience and the dynamic of Vietnamese businesses to take the opportunities coming and move ahead.
So don't underestimate Vietnamese entrepreneurs. Don't underestimate Vietnamese women. With that, we'd like to thank our panel for their insights. Do feel free to grab them and talk to them during the break, and wish you an enjoyable rest of the conference. Thank you very much.